about this, I do want to bring in Fleur Hassan-Nahoum, who is the former deputy mayor of Jerusalem. And Fleur, thank you so much for taking the time to speak with us. We appreciate it.
Thank you, Stephanie.
Absolutely. And I do want to speak with you about the recovery of the bodies of 6 hostages in Gaza. But before we get to that, I also wanted to speak with you about the very latest, the breaking news that Palestinian militants have killed 3 Israeli police officers in the West Bank. What can you share with us about that?
Well, again, what's been happening now in the West Bank, was we call it Judea and Samaria, is essentially the emboldenment of Hamas because of October 7th. They've been launching terror attacks. They launched a suicide terror attack in Tel Aviv that thankfully, by miracle, didn't end up in mass casualties. So we're seeing a concerted effort by Hamas in Judea and Samaria, in the West Bank, to attack Israel as much as it possibly can. And so with these operations, we're trying to prevent those attacks. Everything we're doing is defensive. And unfortunately, today we've had so much tragedy. We've had 3 officers killed in the line of duty, defending their people, defending Israel. And of course, the recovery of the 6 dead bodies of the hostages, which is just completely heartbreaking for us.
Fleur, you were mentioning Hamas feeling emboldened. Israel has tried to reach a ceasefire deal with Hamas, who has refused to come to the table and accept the terms offered to them. I want to ask you this, especially with the very latest, where 3 Israeli police officers were killed by militants in that terror attack. For you, in terms of the very latest event, what does this signify to you when it comes to the status of this ongoing war?
Well, what's been happening in Gaza has obviously significantly weakened Hamas and their military capabilities. So now they're looking for other avenues. We know, and we've discovered, that there's a direct link between Iran arms supply into the West Bank, into Judea and Samaria, through Jordan. And so what we need to see is not Israel fighting on its own to destroy the military group Hamas, which has been emboldened by Iran. Iran is an enemy of the entire civilized world. We know that they're the head of the snake. We know they're the head of the octopus, and this is just a tentacle. And so what we really need to see is more of a concerted effort by the whole entire global community to make sure that Iran is the one that is to blame, and is the one that suffers and is disarmed, instead of just letting them do whatever it is they continue to do to make the whole world and our region much more dangerous.
Absolutely, Fleur. Thank you so much. I also wanted to share with our viewers just briefly right here, as we just received photos of the 3 Israeli police officers who were killed in the West Bank. And we did want to share that with our viewers as they were killed by Palestinian militants right there. So that just into our newsroom. So we did want to share that with our viewers. And Fleur, I also wanted to continue our conversation because, of course, the other major breaking news story was that the Israeli military recovered the bodies of 6 hostages in Gaza. And I wanted to ask you about that. You know, what can you share with us?
It's just heartbreaking, Stephanie, because 2 of those hostages, or 3 of those hostages, would have been in the deal that never happened. I myself, my family are close to the Goldberg Polands. I've known Hirsch since he was a kid. And we're just completely heartbroken. We lived in hope that he was going to come out. The parents have left no stone unturned, as every single parent has. They've been everywhere. They've lobbied everyone. And at this point, I want to really reinforce the words that came out of the hostage family forum, who basically said, we will pressure our own government, but everyone around the world needs to be pressuring their government to make sure that this is a priority. If the world would be pressuring Hamas and not Israel instead, then the result may have been very different. Today, Stephanie, as mothers and as citizens of Israel, we are all completely heartbroken.
It is so heartbreaking, as you mentioned, Fleur. And I did want to ask you about this because the military said that all 6 had been killed shortly before the arrival of Israeli forces. When it comes to the strategy of Hamas, and there was the rescue of a 52-year-old hostage last week who was able to be rescued safely and reunited with his family in Israel. But what can you share with us about the tactics of Hamas as they still hold about 100 hostages captive?
Well, this is how cruel they are. They obviously felt that the Israeli military was getting close. And instead of just escaping themselves, they had to massacre 6 innocent young people just in vain for no reason. They would have escaped anyway, but this is what they did. And again, like the Prime Minister said, these are not people who want a deal. If they wanted a deal, then we would have a deal and they would get what they are negotiating for, not just kill 6 innocent lives just like that, just extinguish these lives. Like I said, we're all aching today. We really hoped and prayed that they would come home safely. These are young, healthy people that were taking in the prime of their lives, taken from their lives, taken from their families. There was no reason for them to have killed them. They did nothing to anyone.
And I would imagine, Fleur, that this also signifies that Hamas will not come to the table or bargain in good faith when it comes to a potential ceasefire deal. Israel has come to the table repeatedly offering what they feel is a fair deal for Hamas. I have to imagine from your perspective, does this signify the fact that they have murdered 6 hostages when Israeli military were close by, that they will not agree to any sort of a ceasefire deal?
Well, it would make sense that we conclude that from that. As you said quite rightly, Stephanie, they've been offered 6 deals and they've rejected all of them. Your Secretary of State, Antony Blinken, has repeatedly put the blame of the lack of a deal on Hamas for inventing new conditions or just walking away. And obviously, there hasn't been enough pressure from the so-called interlocutors to make sure that a deal was made. And here we have more innocent people dead that could have come out in a deal if Hamas would have actually wanted a deal. And really that goes along with the whole ethos of suicidal fundamentalism, because that's really what they're all about. They will bring down everyone with them. They don't care about their own civilians. They started this war on the 7th of October, massacring babies and raping women. These people have no good faith at all. And so to expect a deal from these people maybe was us wishful thinking. Maybe there was some type of realistic prospect. But today we've seen that they're not interested in anything except killing innocent lives and burning everything down along with them.
And you mentioned the enormous human cost. Tens of thousands of people have lost their lives in this ongoing conflict. When it comes to the strategy of trying to rescue the remaining hostages, does this change that, if at all? I'm sure it's already been challenging, but now even more so as the risk continues to increase.
Well, we know, we have intelligence that Yahya Sinwar himself is surrounded with 22, 25 hostages that he takes with him wherever it is he escapes. Next to that, his insurance policy. And as a result, even if Israel knows where he is, they will not burn down wherever he is standing at, because we don't, of course, want to bring our own casualties along with bringing him down. And so that, he knows, is his insurance policy. I was hoping that those people who we found today, those innocent lives, were also part of that hostage deal that would have been surrounding Sinwar and would have survived this terrible, terrible tragedy, this murder.
Fleur, before we let you go, is there anything else that you would like to share with our Live Now from Fox viewers?
Well, like I said earlier, Stephanie, the UN have been completely useless here. The EU have been victim blaming Israel from the beginning. We need more international pressure. Remember, Qatar funds, facilitates, and hosts Hamas. The US have a military base in Qatar. The Europeans have multiple business interests in Qatar, as do America. So we could be putting more pressure to the people who can actually affect a deal.
All right, Fleur, as always, we do appreciate you joining us here on Live Now from Fox.
Thanks, Stephanie.
And we continue to follow all breaking news.